Welcome to What We've Witnessed. I'm your guy, your host, your bro, Javondre Cole, and we are here in the mix with episode 6. Now, first and foremost, I like to say that wherever you are tuning in from, whether it be from my LinkedIn newsletter, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Castbox, Pocket Cast, I appreciate the support. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get down to business. The Eagles soared into the record books, putting a halt on history for the Chiefs as they won Super Bowl 59 40-22. And the game wasn't even that close. We'll get into the logistics of it in a minute. But first are the stats. Jalen Hurts accounted for 293 total yards of offense, also led his team in rushing yards, and he added 3 touchdowns to his performance. And of course, Jalen Hurts was named the Super Bowl 59 MVP. Now, his partner in crime, Saquon Barkley, did rush the ball for 25 times in the game, but only had 57 yards. It's evident that the Chiefs game planned in a manner that was built to not lose to Saquon Barkley, and to that regards, they were successful, yet they got killed by Hurts and the daunting defense, who I've coined as Philly's ferocious front four. That was Carter, Sweat, Davis, and Williams, who were just wreaking havoc against the O-line all night, came up with 6 sacks, producing the game, a forced fumble, and a fumble recovery. And this came with a 0% of blitzes used during this game. So it really was literally 4-on-5, and they just obliterated the O-line. And this pressure also caused 2 picks for Patrick Mahomes. Now, late in the game, Pat threw a few garbage time TDs, as I would say, to Xavier Worthy, who finished his first Super Bowl game with 8 receptions, 157 yards, and 2 touchdowns. But in the end, the late game heroics were meaningless. This means that the Chiefs' three-peat hopes are over. My immediate reaction is that we won't see this level of dominance again for a while from a team in the league. And better yet, I'm not sure if we'll even see the Chiefs back in next year's Super Bowl. Chiefs have players that they'll have to prioritize and retain in free agency, which includes linebacker Nick Bolton, 4 of their wide receivers from the season, D-Hop, DeAndre Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown, and Mecole Hardman. Now, while all of these men are valuable pieces and assets, there's one looming free agent decision that, in my opinion, should be the Chiefs' number one priority, and that is their super reliable and durable starting right guard, Trey Smith. He's the guard out of Tennessee who started all but one game for the Chiefs since he's entered the league in 2021. And after last week's Super Bowl loss, retaining an Iron Man like Smith may be beneficial for an O-line who clearly needs all the help they can get if they'll have any shot at success up front. According to USA Today, the Chiefs are over the salary cap space heading into the offseason, which may hinder them from making any big splashes this offseason for acquisitions. Chiefs hold on to the 31st pick in this year's draft, where a PFF mock draft has them selecting Colston Loveland, the tight end out of Michigan. Maybe this is a succession plan to move on for life after Kelsey, who is in year 12, going into 13, heading into next season. Now, had the Chiefs won this Super Bowl, I honestly believe that Kelsey would have rolled off into retirement, into the sunset, and joined his brother Jason. But I feel as though he may return for at least one more hoorah as an attempt to not end his career on such a sour note and kind of wash the taste of this heartbreaking defeat out of his mouth. Now, the Eagles, on the other hand, are riding high on cloud 9 as they've celebrated their parade, which was last Friday on the 14th. It was filled with lots of love and lots of laughs and also a lot of profanity. The offensive player of the year, Saquon Barkley, even asked the question that seems to have the nation buzzing as he asked after the game, "Why can't our dynasty start now?" Saquon did admit that those comments came after a lot of champagne, but I'm a firm believer that, hey, drunk minds are going to say sober thoughts, and I honestly see nothing wrong with what he said, whether he was intoxicated or not. It's more of a reflective piece, and it shows that the amount of trust that he has in the guys around him. Barkley has never been surrounded by this much talent in his career up until this point, which made him ask, like, hey, why not us? Some may see it as a lofty goal, but it's definitely one that's not far-fetched, especially based on the talent that they do have on this roster. In the NFC, there's no question that the Eagles have the best quarterback in Hurts. The Eagles will have to consider paying some of these people in the offseason coming up, which include Josh Sweat, first team All Pro linebacker Zach Bond, and Milton Williams, who all helped them boast that number one defense on the season. On the offensive side of the ball, of course, they'll have to try to get back Mekhi Becton, the offensive guard, who was transitioned into a guard from a tackle when he was initially drafted by the Jets as a first round pick. But all in, this is still the best team in the NFC as it stands today. Now, yes, the Lions have a loaded roster and lots of talent, but to put all that talent together and figure out how to produce it, it will be challenging as they have lost their OC and their DC. For the Commanders, they may go on a spending spree this offseason, but again, that's still yet to be seen. You still have to have the chemistry and know how to put the pieces to the puzzle together. So to Barkley's point, yes, the Eagles' floor, I think, for next year would be another Super Bowl appearance, and their ceiling could be another championship, and for being realistic. Now, there are a few players around the NFL who are hoping to also chase Super Bowl dreams with another organization, similar to how Barkley did this year. Three former All Pro and Pro Bowlers have requested trades from their respective organizations: wide receiver Deebo Samuels of the 49ers, wide receiver Cooper Kupp of the Rams, and edge rusher Myles Garrett of the Browns. We'll start with Garrett, who of the three has had the most individual success recently, as he's just one season removed from being the NFL Defensive Player of the Year. Garrett's decision comes after 8 seasons in Cleveland, and even comes with some advice from LeBron James, who knows a thing or two about making tough decisions of how to depart from Cleveland. Garrett has stated he wants to go to a team who is in contention for a Super Bowl, and after reading around, I've seen a couple of reports that have linked Myles Garrett to the Commanders, to the Eagles, and maybe even the Lions. If he ends up going to Philly, I could see some draft picks and maybe even a Jordan Davis package being included to try to get Garrett from Cleveland, which would save Philly from, having to provide Davis with his fifth year option on his rookie contract. This would pair, which would be terrifying, Myles Garrett with Jalen Carter on the front line, and that would make it tough for a lot of opposing O lines to get some sleep tonight before they have to play Philly. Now, obviously, this is assuming that Garrett is kind of bought into the idea of going ahead and winning and not so much getting the money, because he would indeed have to take a pay cut if he was to come to Philly. Although if he did join their division rivals, the Washington Commanders, he may not exactly have to take that pay cut, as the Commanders are expected to again go on that big spending spree, as I alluded to earlier, for free agents this summer. Now, granted, while Garrett isn't a free agent, he is someone that I could see being swapped for maybe a first round pick. Of course, one that the Commanders have this year with the number 29 pick of the draft. So, but this potentially could leave the Browns with the option of even drafting Travis Hunter with the number 2 pick, and then grabbing another late round steal late in the draft coming up. And Washington could potentially re-sign Garrett to another nice contract once his current one expires, if both sides are in alignment based on his performance and success if he was to go to the Commanders. Now, for the Lions, I'm gonna take this with a grain of salt. This is more so he say she say, in my opinion, from Amon Ross St. Brown, as he stated his desires of teaming up with Garrett on his podcast. In a realistic world, I don't know who you sacrifice on the Lions roster that the Browns would necessarily want, I guess you can say. Now, the Lions have about $46 million in salary cap room, but we'll see how that fares out, and how the front office plans to utilize that money coming up, and if they see the necessity to have Myles Garrett paired up with Aiden Hutchinson, who we know is coming off of that injury that he sustained last season. As for Deebo Samuels and Cooper Kupp, these are two former All-Pro wide receivers who still have a lot left in the tank. They still have that wide receiver one upside, if you ask me, but they just aren't being prioritized the same way that they once were. With Puka Nacua looking to take over the reins of wide receiver number one in LA, and Brandon Ayuk trying to take over those reins in San Francisco. Now, there are a multitude of franchises who'd benefit from receiver help. The first three teams who come to mind for me are the Patriots, the Broncos, and the Chargers. Patriots make sense if either player is seeking another, pretty good contract, as New England has the most spending money this offseason at about $120 million. So if Kupp or Debo are interested in possibly securing that next bag while still working with a young and up and coming quarterback in the NFL in Drake May, still having the chance of getting wide receiver one looks, New England kind of makes sense for them. With these guys having two very diverse styles of play, I could see Cooper Cup fitting in a little bit better with the Patriots, and I could honestly see Debo fitting in a little bit better with the Chargers. Reason why the Chargers make sense for Debo is just Jim Harbaugh is a ground and pound type of coach who he pretty much prioritizes the run game. We've seen that how it was at Michigan, and even before Michigan, how he was with the San Francisco 49ers. And Debo's ability to make plays as both a rusher or a pass catcher gives him multiple opportunities to leave his mark on the game. So whether that be through the air or on the ground, Debo really has multiple ways in which he can hurt a defense, and that gives Justin Herbert an instant upgrade in the wide receiver room as that vet who can support and further develop the growth of their first year star from last season, Lad McConkey out of Georgia, who had about 1,100 receiving yards and 7 touchdowns on the season. The Broncos also make sense for either team, who are similar to both the Patriots and the Chargers in one way. So, similar to New England, Denver has its young quarterback of the future, who they're trying to build around while he's still on his rookie contract. And similar to the Chargers, they took a lopsided first round exit of this year's playoffs and are kind of hoping to make some turnarounds and address some concerns ASAP to try to build upon their momentum. Behind Cortland Sutton, the Broncos haven't had much reliability at wideout. Now, if you insert Debo and you have one of the right there, you pretty much have one of the better tandems in the league to help open up the field and reduces the double team opportunities for either player. Now, a recent interview, Debo, he even stated that he believes that the Broncos could be a special team next season, and he gave his respects to Bo Nix and the stout defense. Now, whether this was a shameless plug or not, that remains to be seen. But nevertheless, we may not see any of these players move from their respective team until after June 1st for dead cap salary considerations. So, with the NFL offseason officially upon us, I look forward to the madness that is yet to unfold for Garrett, Debo, or Cooper Cup. Um, and then transitioning over from the league to the association, the NBA, we've reached the halfway point of the season, and that halfway point provides us with All Star Weekend, which has once again come and gone. The major points that I'll discuss will be the dunk contest and Sunday's new and improved All Star game. Saturday night, we did have Mac McClung, the guard of the Orlando Magic, made history in becoming the first ever three-peat dunk contest champion. He's tied with Nate Robinson for the most dunk contest victories in history. Mac received perfect scores on the night for every dunk that he attempted, which is crazy. He had 200 total points. He beat out Spurs rookie Stephon Castle for the crown. This means McClung has now cashed in on a little bit over $300,000 over the past three dunk contests that he's won. And it's really got the conversation sparked for current NBA stars to possibly join next year's dunk contest. John Morant, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Zach LaVine took to X following Mac McClung's three-peat, and all players alluded to the possibility of pondering on the idea of being there for next season or for next year's dunk contest. And it's, of course, it's been a dream of all NBA fans for years to see the likes of players like a LeBron James and more recently Zion Williamson to participate in this competition. Although we've kind of just come to terms that we'll never see LeBron and maybe also never see Zion Williamson, there is hope that that life may be restored within the dunk contest here soon if we are given the chance to witness some of the best in-game dunkers of the decade next season. So we'll see how that fares out coming next All-Star weekend. And then on Sunday, yesterday, it was Team Shaq, despite LeBron sitting out with an ankle injury, who came out on top from the field of play, beating both Team Candace and Team Chuck en route to their first ever All-Star Game tournament title. Taking home the Kobe Bryant MVP honors was none other than the host city hero, Stephen Curry of the Golden State Warriors. Now, Steph's teammate, Draymond Green, was clearly not a fan of the new format, feeling as though it slights the NBA All-Stars for having to play against the rising stars to improve ratings, and quote says the new format is a 0 out of 10 and that it sucks. So this was on the TNT pregame broadcast, so the entire world knows Draymond's perspective and how he feels about this new format for All-Star Game. To me personally, from a competition standpoint, I liked it. I enjoyed it. There were screens, there were back cuts, there was defense, and we didn't have to wait until the fourth quarter or the second half to see real basketball. So for me personally, watching it, I enjoyed it. Might be cool to see the score increase a little bit from 40 to maybe 50, 60, however they see, but I'm not opposed to new. And for me, new worked. So we'll see how things alter and change next year. And for this year, I believe this was a success, and we just look forward to the NBA to continue to grow on All Star Weekend and just kind of try to bring that life back that we've been accustomed to as fans. And that, my friends, will conclude another episode of Dub 3, What We've Witnessed. Brief episode this week, but nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to drop a like, comment, or share this episode with a fellow sports junkie who loves the games as much as you and me. Don't forget to also subscribe to the page and be notified when the new episodes drop. Until we meet again, good night and God bless.